What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Den Dialogues. I'm your host, Ryan Martin, and today I am excited to share with you my conversation with Caitlin Cook. She is a fantastic stand-up comedian, singer-songwriter, an artist, a director, a producer, and much more. She's still touring her show, The Writing on the Stall. It's going on in the UK at the end of the month and into mid-June, I believe. So if you want to check her out live, please do. TheCaitlinCook.com has her tour dates and links. We're going to leave links down below as well. We got into some really great conversation here about a traumatic experience she had when she was young and how she figured out ways to deal with that. Her show, The Writing on the Stall, and about graffiti in bathrooms and how that can be kind of the purest form of art there is, in a way, because there's no real reward to doing anything or writing anything, and there's no punishment to it really either. It's just literally what people are feeling, and it's everywhere. It's in so many bathrooms, and some of the quotes we go over in this podcast, one of which she uses as like a life mantra for her: do what scares you, even if it's everything. And that helps her deal with her anxieties and kind of take them head on. We had an amazing and interesting conversation. I have a lot of respect for Caitlin, and I wish her the best. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Caitlin Cook. That McDonald's lawsuit.
Yeah, insane.
What was it, like 20 million or something?
Yeah, and people are like, oh my God, she's just suing to get money. And I was like, did you look into the case at all? Like, she melted her like stomach and pelvis because the coffee spilled on her when she was driving out of the drive-thru.
Okay, I never heard of
So
that part
hot.
of
Yeah.
the story.
She had like serious injuries.
So wait, it melted it because it fell on. It wasn't that she consumed it and then it melted her
No.
insides.
It like
It
fell like in the drive-thru. So they were trying to be like, it wasn't that hot, and also like you should be more careful when you hold your coffee. And she was like, you've melted my body.
Yeah, like these are
I
like
deserve
serious
$20 million.
serious burns.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Crazy times when you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Caitlin, for coming on here today and coming back to the Den.
Absolutely. I love the Den.
Thanks. It's been about a year since you've been back with Writing on the Stall.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear how things have been in the last year since did you start the tour here, or had it been going before?
No, it was, well, yeah, I'm new to like this show kind of going viral and blowing up and figuring out how to tour with it. And so I think last year I started in Chicago with like my first longer tour. It was like, it was only like 10 days long, but it was like 11 shows, and we were driving to a new city like 3 or 4 hours away every day. It was a very intense tour.
Okay.
And I've been learning this year like how
it was all packed into like 10 days. Like the way
it
you
was
guys
like
had scheduled it.
Chicago to Indianapolis to Cincinnati. It ended in DC, and then we drove back to New York.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been learning like what touring should look like for me. And usually it's like a bunch of shows in a shorter amount of time, like 1 to 2 weeks. And that's like every month and a half, 2 months. And
okay. So then you get to like recoup after that. And that
and I find
works for
promo like very exhausting and soul crushing. And so like that's the part of like touring that is not fun. So I need like a couple months to sort of like rest and then get back into promoting the next tour.
Right, because it takes a little bit from your soul
every time. It takes so much from my soul.
Every time you get the call from us going, hey, Caitlin, can you make a personal video? Like make
That's
something
fine. I appreciate a venue being like, hey, I'm on it. It's more when like I feel like I had to. I especially did this when I did the initial off-Broadway run, but I had to like disconnect my self-worth from how well my videos and promo and ticket sales are doing. And I had to turn it into a science experiment. So I was working with a couple friends where we created this spreadsheet that was like tracking like the first 2 seconds of every video and the geotags and the hashtags and the likes to comments ratio, and treated it like a science experiment.
Scientific on that.
Yeah, because then I went, oh, great, I can try a bunch of different things and see what works, rather than being like, oh, this thing didn't do well and therefore like I am not good enough, you know?
Right.
It's like what your brain creates the story to be, unless you, I don't know, have a different perspective. So
totally. I'd imagine some people do that instinctually by just trial and error.
Yeah.
they're not using their intellectual brain quite as much in terms of like, okay, let's science this, break down like what could I do differently here, there, what is it about this one that popped off and why, and then you can kind of like find the things that replicate. I'd be curious, like, were there any things that you broke down and were like, oh, it's because I did this in the beginning, and then you tried it again and it didn't have the same results, or similar?
Yeah, I mean, I learned initially that like if I just had my face at the front of the video looking at the camera and like pointing to text, that always blows up, which is so weird to me because I thought it would be like a live video and building to a laugh or something. But really people want to see you looking at them, which is crazy. But yeah, sometimes I've like been experimenting with posting more music stuff and figuring out how that works. And often those don't do as well as the comedic videos because people want to laugh. And I don't know, it's like a whole different game. And it's so different from actually just performing on stage, which is my favorite thing. It's like really connecting with people. And it's hard these days to like be a performer and also you have to be your own agent, your own marketing manager, and you know, all that stuff. So,
So getting into all that stuff it kind of takes a little bit of a toll on you, all that kind of marketing, promotion. And so like kind of going home, like do you take some time off then when live in New York, right? Do you take some time off? Like, do you do shows in New York while you're there, or is it just kind of like relax before you go touring?
I still do shows in New York. But it's like I guess like it depends on what I'm touring. If I'm touring more comedy stuff, I'll do like music shows back in New York to just like get out of that kind of mindset. If I'm touring more music stuff, I might go to New York and do some stand-up sets. I sort of like want the shift to feel like not what I was just doing, which is nice. And I also like happen to be very lucky, and I built a recording studio in this like beautiful basement that we have back in New York. So sometimes it's less performing when I go home, but it's still, you know, working on stuff and recording and mixing and stuff.
It's kind of playing around a little bit, right?
Which is nice.
So is music something you've been doing for a long time? It's clearly a passion of yours.
Yes.
Is that when did you start getting into music? Has that been from a young age?
Yeah, I wrote my first song when I was like 4 years old about my cats, as I was learning piano. And I've always written songs. It's how I process all of my emotions or big life events. And I love watching a song that I wrote during like a pivotal moment grow to be something different as I like play it on tours, or sometimes I run these like psychedelic sound healing ceremonies and I'll play different songs there. And it's cool to watch a song that was like an imprint of a moment turn into all of these memories as it continues to grow. But yeah, music is sort of like in my blood. My grandfather invented the wah pedal, the guitar wah pedal. Yeah.
It goes like
yeah.
Like you make those awesome sounds.
Yeah. And he wasn't a musician in any way. He was just an inventor, and he liked to take technology apart and put it back together. But he put something back together that built the wah pedal.
He's the inventor of the wah pedal.
He's the inventor of the wah pedal. Yeah.
The name is so perfect for that.
Yeah.
The wah pedal.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
What's his name?
His name's Raymond Lubo. And he had a company called Tel-Ray, which was like television radio, but also Tel-Ray.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and he unfortunately didn't patent it very well. So I'm not a trust fund baby or nepotism or anything, but but I do think that like it's really cool that that's in my family. He was working with like the Grateful Dead and Jimi Hendrix and all these crazy people who wanted to experiment with the wah. And then my mother is a choreographer, so she took all of that music stuff and turned it into dance. And I grew up just hearing lots of different cool music around the house. My brother he's not in music anymore, but he played a saxophone and a bunch of woodwinds and brass, and he was in jazz bands growing up, and then we were in a Motown band together in college, and so it's just been a big part of my life.
Okay, so that music is like huge from the get-go in your in your blood.
Yeah. And initially, this show was piano and guitar. Like I wrote half the songs on both, and I was going to bring a piano around and like somehow set dress it to look like a sink
Oh,
in the
okay.
bathroom.
Oh, cool.
And I wanted to like initially get a giant toilet tank and like hide the guitar in the toilet tank and pull
Uh,
it out. But it's hard to travel with all of that set. So maybe one day.
I know, right? You
Yeah.
you pick up a toilet in every location, right?
Yeah, I go to Home Depot everywhere. Thanks, Home Depot.
Yeah.
And I buy a toilet, and I have a specific toilet that I buy now,
Oh,
and I know
nice.
exactly how to put it together. And I do the show, and then I put the toilet back in the box. I take it apart, and I return it to Home Depot.
I mean, that is so awesome. Like, I would love to get the toilet that was once on stage somewhere. I think that
Yes,
would be cool history. Like, you should have like a
absolutely.
carving of your name in the show, like in the little
Oh my God,
corner,
I'd love that.
or maybe underneath or something.
Feels very Duchamp R.R. Mutt, just like, yeah, make the toilet the piece of art. I maybe one day, once I need to film this show, so once I film it, I think maybe people have talked about like having me auction off the toilet at the end of the show,
Hmm.
and I'm like, I would love for an audience to all come graffiti the toilet and then have it be some kind of
Oh yeah, that
piece.
would be
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I would love to get more into your musical kind of journaling aspect because I think that's super
hmm,
interesting. But maybe we'll go back to
yeah,
that
sure.
because kind of want to dive in a little bit to the with the toilet and the graffiti,
Hmm.
and that's the sort of, it seems like part of the heart of
Hmm.
of your show, which is the writing in the bathroom stalls that
Yeah,
we've all seen all of our lives.
yeah.
But I was really struck by it when I saw it,
Hmm.
and in your show you recount like, and you sing about,
Hmm.
and as part of the show, all the like super either philosophical or interesting
Hmm.
or just angry or hurt or
Yeah,
whatever. It runs the gamut,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
like, um and I've heard you say, it's like art in its somewhat purest form.
Hmm.
Can you speak a little bit about why that is?
Yeah. I initially found this piece of graffiti in Chicago, actually, when I was living here, when I first was like starting to photograph graffiti more and more. I moved here right after college, and I found this piece of graffiti that said, since writing on toilet walls is neither for critical acclaim nor financial reward, it is the purest form of art. Discuss.
Oh, so
And
that didn't
yeah,
come from you originally. That you
no.
found that.
I found that
Okay.
piece of graffiti, and at the time I studied art history in undergrad, and I was deciding if I wanted to do a master's program, and I was getting really frustrated with how pretentious the art world is, and I saw that and I was like, wow, that gets to the core of like what I really think and what really interests me is like low art versus high art and the
Mm-hmm.
funny juxtaposition between the two. And I was interested in graffiti in this way where at the time it was like 2012, and I applied for a Fulbright grant actually to study and photograph graffiti art in Finland because they were opening up a bunch of free wall spaces, and I was like, what does that do to an art form that is about vandalism and fighting the man,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly it's free use. And I actually got the Fulbright grant, and I was going to move to Helsinki and do this after college. And because it was half funded through the university, and then they decided to not offer that program, it sort of fell apart at the last minute. And I ended up doing Teach for America in Chicago, and thank God I did because I ended up
Yeah.
here doing teaching preschool and going to these open mics
Mm-hmm.
every night and seeing theater and seeing comedy and seeing music and like really soaking in the culture here and photographing graffiti.
Yeah, that would have changed your trajectory a little bit, but
Yes.
maybe a lot.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
that's really cool
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. So I found that piece of graffiti and I had written already my like bachelor's thesis a little bit about graffiti. It was all kinds of graffiti, but there was a section on bathroom graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started going to, all the dive bars. I was just like hanging out at all the comedy shows. I started photographing, and it was right around when Instagram started too. So I like started I think my handle was like Installgrams, and I started photographing
Oh,
bathroom
nice.
graffiti. And I found some recently when I was like trying to figure out how to promote this show. I was like, do I have anything from back when I started in Chicago? And I found a piece of graffiti that said, "I love your Crocs, nobody," like from nobody. No one's ever said that. And little pieces
Right.
from the Green Mill and a couple other venues. And I was like, wow, I've really like done this for so long. I've
Yeah.
really been interested in this
There's
forever.
such little insights that are like, there's nothing, there's no reason for anybody to write them other than some kind of truth.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like no one's gonna know who it is.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and that's what I find so fascinating about it. It like hit me. It was like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
This is really different in the bath. If you're gonna write on the walls in the bathroom, like it takes all the, you know, if you write something great, no one's gonna know it.
Yeah.
So if you write something really hellacious and really shitty,
Yeah.
like no one's gonna know it was you.
Yeah.
You can really just like, it's like, where else can you do that?
It's super liberating in the craziest way that you can write your darkest confession to a
Yeah.
bunch of people and never know if it was seen. Or no one will ever know it was you. But like you can get it out somehow. It's like a
Yeah.
confessional booth in some ways. You could write really dark, horrible things. You could write, I'm in love with this person. You could write something silly. There's a lot of things that like people have continuously written
Yeah.
over time. And as I say in the show, it's like it's the oldest form of art, and we have like archaeological sites that were like there was some kind of volcanic eruption, and so it was like pristine when we
Preserved.
preserved, and we were able to see that like back in blah 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 BC, someone wrote Frank has a small dick, you know? Like it's crazy. We've been doing this forever. It's so insane to me that like humanity is like, I need to write something and it's going to be a little bit stupid or a little bit profound, but I need to write this here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's a connecting in a way, which also seems to be a through line in your show. You know, it feels very like you know, if somebody says something on there, like one of the quotes that I've heard in your stuff, it's like, you know, what was it? Oh, good luck out there, human.
Yeah.
You know, just something so simple of like, yeah, we're all just trying to figure this out. And if I came across that and I was having a really bad day, week,
Yeah.
month, year, whatever,
Yeah.
you know, and I just saw that, I'd be like, oh, what's up? Yeah, you must have been struggling with something too. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, all right, I can keep going. You know,
Totally.
like for that. But then, you know, you could see something else like you have in your show, like just kill yourself.
Yeah.
So like I could see that and be like, fuck.
Totally. Totally. It's wild, like the things that we decide to put up there. That was the hardest song for me to write, actually, because I don't take pictures of that kind of graffiti.
Yeah.
So when I realized that that was the thing that was missing, I had to like go out into bathrooms and like search for the kind of graffiti that I always kind of ignore.
Yeah.
And find like the horrible dark things that people have written.
Yeah. Oh, this reminds me, because I want to, I don't want to forget to show you before we leave the building. This is an old building. It was built in like the 1890s.
Oh, wow.
And we have this old freight elevator. It was probably installed. Clearly, I don't know if they had. Did they have elevators in the 1890s? I don't know. But the freight elevator isn't that old, but it's still very, very old.
Yeah.
So there was a period where this building in this neighborhood went through, like, I think it was like, you know, vagabonds were living in here and, you know, homeless and just, you know, it was really bad.
Yeah.
And the elevator shaft, it doesn't have a door that actually closes. It's like a gate. So you can see the walls on the way up.
Whoa.
And they've got graffiti from like the 60s, 70s, 80s,
Cool.
when the building was just like, you know, totally trashed and people were just like living here. And
That's wild. I definitely want to see
but I want to show you
Yeah.
on the way out. We can, because you were saying the, I think we were talking about like the dark side of what can be on there.
Yeah.
But that's fascinating to me. You know, another thing that struck me from your show was like, you can see and look for and find what you want to. And that actually hit me kind of powerfully, because I was like, oh, because that's like life too,
Yeah.
How much choice do you think, it's like it gets into bigger questions of like, you choose, you have to choose which direction you want to go. Do you want to see the light? Do you want to, the graffiti on the walls, do you want to lean into the light, or do you want to go down the dark path,
Totally. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, of how like it really is about your mindset as you look at the world and your perspective, because you can be going about your day and like stub your toe and knock a glass of water over.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've decided that you're going to have a bad day or you're in a bad mood, you go,
Yeah,
see, nothing's working for me.
totally.
See, the world's against me. But if you're deciding to be in a better mood or look for the light, those things you won't remember those moments in the course of your day, because it's just a little accident that happened. You'll remember the moments of like synchronicity, or
Right.
um, you'll see the things written on the bathroom wall. If you decide, I'm looking for art everywhere, I'm looking for the
Yeah.
coincidences, and it's hard, to choose that every day. Sometimes you
I think
stub your toe and you want to be like,
it
see,
is hard, right?
yeah,
And it depends. Like, it's easy to say, when you're in a good mood, you're having coffee, you're having a
totally,
good chat,
yeah,
it's easy for me to say, like, yeah, just, and I tell my kids this all the time, my son will wake up and stub his toe, and he's like, I literally see him do that. And then he
yeah,
can't find his whatever bus pass.
yeah.
And he's just like, I'm like, dude, you don't want to let one thing chain react like
Yeah.
that, and then you can't find your homework.
Yeah.
And it's like totally like but it's easy to say, it's hard to do. And it's almost like, why does that, some days are super easy,
Yeah.
it's like everything just
Totally.
clicks. How much control do you actually have? Does it start the day before and the
Yeah.
day before?
Yeah. Not a lot of control. I feel like things do just happen to you. Sometimes you stub your toe and you can't find your homework. But
Yeah.
also like you like those days that everything comes easy, I feel like you'll appreciate more.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the other days will seem more normal rather than the world is against you, if you can just like let go of those little frustrations. But again, so easy to say,
Mm-hmm.
so much harder to do.
Takes a long time
Yeah.
to gain that wisdom. If you and then even if you can implement it, like it's definitely challenging. It's what we all struggle with, is just understanding that, to get a little grip on your mindset, if you're in a bad place, can like get you to the next little grip. And
Yeah.
even if you get hit by the world,
Yeah.
it can help. It can't necessarily like fully,
Yeah.
soothe it. But like you said, then if you can hold on and keep getting little grips,
Yeah.
before you know it, 2, 3 days, 4 days, maybe you get a good day,
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
but all that stuff was really hitting me in waves throughout your show in a powerful way. So
Cool.
I really thought that was cool.
Thank you.
All from, that, beginning, the way you begin and connect with the audience, and kind of like, I kind of felt like it was like a sitting around a campfire kind of thing,
Cool.
feeling,
Yeah.
but that, tell me a little bit about that, like how you structured the show and why. Like, you definitely make it a point to connect to the audience. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But some of the other things, yeah, like, you want to share a little
Yeah.
of the structure?
I mean, I built in connecting with the audience because it scared me. And the whole crux of the show is built around one piece of graffiti that said, do what scares you, even if it's everything. And I've always been someone that's dealt with a lot of anxiety, and decided really early on that like I needed to do the thing that scares me and put myself outside of my comfort zone, because that would teach me more about who I am and what I liked, and my identity. And also, I just think it's good to put yourself outside of your comfort zone. Like, it's good to scare yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it scared me to talk to the audience. It scared me to give up control. I'm more of a writer, or I'm more comfortable being a writer than I am an improviser. I like having a script. I like knowing my plan and what I'm going to say on stage. And so it really scared me to go, all right, I'll start the show by asking the audience if they have any toilet paper.
Yeah.
And then I have to give up control. And I'll start the show by kind of world building with the audience, which also like comes from clowning. I like started becoming familiar with clowning stuff when I was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which I've gone to many times since. And I went, oh, cool. It's like the difference between clowning and improv is improv, your group is your scene partners, and clowning is like the audience is your scene partner, and you like really build with them. And I went, okay, this is fascinating to me and so terrifying, and I guess I have to build it into my show. And so yeah, I really spend a lot of the time early on talking to them and giving up control and letting them world build with me. And it's all still part of the plan. Like I still know where I'm going. The show is still structured, but like they get to choose who the person outside in the bar was that like kind of triggered me and why I'm hiding in the bathroom. They choose that person's name. They choose like what is the annoying thing about her that I keep referencing, and I have to remember that every night of like, it's a different person's name. It's a different
Yeah.
person every night, which is fun and cool and different. But
That's
also,
hard in of itself.
yes,
Like
I have
you
to remember so many names.
like 10 people's names, and then you repeat them at the end. It's crazy. I'm
it's
like,
wild. And it's really, I really like want to connect with them because the show is in a bathroom and in a women's bathroom specifically. And that is where women connect with each other. It's like a weird safe space where like sometimes someone is crying, sometimes someone needs toilet paper, sometimes someone needs a tampon, sometimes you're just like, I love your dress, but like it's a safe space where women like gas each other up. And I wanted the audience to feel like we were doing that. So even though they're strangers and at the end of the night they're going to leave and I'm probably never going to talk to them again, for that moment we're in the bathroom together gassing each other up and being best friends for just a moment. And that feels like really consistent with also a lot of the graffiti that's in women's bathrooms too, which is just encouraging and empowering. And I also figured like in the show, I tell this story about a car accident that I was in that's, you know, a really like shaping moment of my life. And I'd always wanted to build that into a show because my favorite shows are shows in which I go, in which I laugh and I cry and I go, wow, I've never heard a story like that before. And that's really authentic to that person. And I feel a little less alone because they've shared such a like a core, deep part of themselves. So I knew I wanted to build this moment of my life into a show. And I went, how do I do that in a way that doesn't feel like I'm using the audience as a therapist or dumping on them too much? How do I do it in a way that's like funny and sad and real? And I was like, oh, it would make sense that it would be in a women's bathroom and it would be surrounded by all of these anonymous moments of graffiti that people are also being confessional and dumping these moments onto the stalls of the bathroom. So I really like the structure of the show. Took forever to build. It was actually like initially 2 shows. I had one that was like a bunch of different songs and my car accident section was in there and 1 graffiti song. And that was done at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in like 2019. And then I started to realize that 1 graffiti song connected with people so much and I had so much backlog of graffiti that I could actually write a whole concept album or musical using graffiti as lyrics. And so I wrote all of those songs and then I was like, what's the through line though? What's the story? And that took forever until I saw this show at the Minetta Lane Theater by Michael Cruz Kane. That was just a beautiful show and really sad and funny. And I like raced home after that show and I went, I got to stitch these together. That's the story. I had the story and now I have the structure. And I like Frankenstein them together, and then it took a while to like massage out the details, and it was also hard because I wrote the initial version of the show. I think I was telling you last night. No, I was telling Ron. A woman last night came to my show. She had come last year as well, and she was there in Athens, Georgia, in March, like mid-March, March 13th, 2020. The first time I ever did this show. The bathroom graffiti show for 4 people. She was there. She was one of the 4 people. She showed me a picture of a toilet seat duct taped to a chair with like a bucket underneath because we used to like pretend I was like pulling things out of the toilet back in the early days. And she like came and she came last year, and she told me that she had seen it, and she went, "I'm so proud of you." And it was so sweet. And last night she was like, "We've been through so much together. Like, I told you this last year, and I got an internship today." She's just like been through all of these like pivotal moments of
Yeah.
the show growing. But yeah, it's been like a long journey of figuring out how this show works, and what the structure needs to be, and also how to break it, how to keep breaking it and let the audience break it with me.
Yeah.
But it really finally feels like it's done. I mean, a show is never done, but it feels like it's set now
Yeah.
in a cool way.
Like the art piece is kind of set.
Yeah, or I guess I feel like I keep saying this. I feel ready to film it,
Mm-hmm.
and also I'm like really excited to work on a couple different projects, but also like I'm thinking about the fact that since the show has gone so viral, I've gotten thousands of DMs from people sending me their bathroom graffiti
Mm-hmm.
pictures. And so I have an even larger archive than I did when I first wrote the show.
You don't
And
even have to go out now with your camera
I
and
don't have to do it. I still do because I love it, but
yeah.
I don't have to. And I have all this beautiful graffiti that's crowdsourced, which how perfect for like the themes of the show. And I think about people like Birbiglia and Patton Oswalt
Mm-hmm.
and stand-up comics that sort of just return to the stage and go, "Here's what's going on with my life in the last year." And I go, "Why don't I just come back to the bathroom? Be like, how funny to run into you here." And have a whole new slew of different graffiti songs with all this crowdsourced
Uh-huh.
graffiti, and build a new structure that's even more talking to the audience and incorporating their stories into the show. And since this first show is about this car accident that happened to me when I was 17, I'm like, there's a
Right.
ton of stories that I haven't told from my like adult,
So you
more recent
need like
life.
one, it sounds like the structure is like one kind of pivotal moment. I mean, that's a powerful one, right?
Hmm.
I mean, but I'm sure, yeah, your life is going to be filled with moments like that.
Totally. So,
But yeah, I think you're going to have it really does connect with people, the just getting this like raw, unfettered bathroom stall graffiti
totally.
insight from
Yeah.
people with where they have no incentive other than to just be human.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no other incentives. They're not trying to impress anyone, nothing. So that's what
Totally.
is like, it's like, and then that ties in, it's brave to tie that into, what you're going through. And so perfect because people want to connect,
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, the story is about other people's stories,
Hmm.
and then it's also you're sharing your most vulnerable
Yeah.
and and how you struggle with that and still struggle with that,
Hmm.
and that also is a whole nother thing, that I think is comes across really well in the show. Is it how you deal with that? And I think people connect with that too.
Hmm.
I mean, do you think, like, was a lot of your anxiety before that, or was that a pivotal moment that created some of the fear?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so hard to remember what I was like as a kid. I think I had some fears and anxiety. So, like, the car accident moment shifted everything for me in a way where it definitely brought on anxiety, where I was like, everything can change in a second.
Yeah,
Everything can be gone in a second. And that's terrifying. And part of me like always prepares for like all kinds of worst case
yeah,
scenarios, typical anxiety. But
right.
also,
Yeah, I
I
do
also
that.
think it shifted into a way where I went, well, if everything can change in a second, then I should stop being like, not stop being so afraid, but like I should stop letting my fear control my actions. So when
Hmm.
I saw that piece of graffiti after my car accident, which says "Do what scares you, even if it's everything," I started going, "Okay, I'll be kind of reckless and impulsive and dive into the things that scare me." So in many ways, I do feel like it heightened my anxiety and it gave me the courage to
Hmm.
like get over it. You know?
Totally understand that.
Yeah.
So, like, hearing some of your stories about anxiety, I find anxiety, and I think a lot of people too. I mean,
Hmm.
in this day and age, people discuss it a lot, right?
Totally.
So many people have anxiety and different forms of it and deal with it differently. Um, so I think it's just like a huge thing that we all grapple with. I have so many thoughts about it from like, okay, well, it's just fear. Fear is just survival. If we didn't have that built in, we wouldn't have survived.
Totally.
Right. So like,
It's useful.
it's
Yeah.
just a scientific, biological, it's just logical to me that we would have evolved to have anxiety and
Totally.
fear. I like to think deeper about it, that there's some other elements to it too sometimes, just philosophically,
Totally.
but it does make sense to me that we would all have these fears. I think they can be, they're totally, sometimes they don't make sense. And that's where it's like your fear gauge is like, your life is not threatened.
Totally.
So why is your fear gauge like going through the fucking roof, and being just so weird,
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the show last night made me think of this. My family and I went to Italy recently, and we were in Venice, and we went to the Doge's Palace.
Yeah.
And they have this like tour that you can take of the dungeon.
Oh, whoa.
And it's like jail, like, Middle Ages jail.
Yeah.
And it's like, just stone walls, like closed in. And there was like 50 people on this tour. And I started feeling like we were in this like tunnel.
Yeah.
And there's these little tiny stairs where they're like, we're going up these stairs, all these people. And it was midsummer. So Italy,
Yeah.
hot as
Real
hell.
hot.
I mean,
I would get so claustrophobic.
I was like, my heart started, and my kids are there, and I'm like, I'm not, and I was literally like, there was a moment where I was like, get me the fuck out of here. I'm gone. Like, get me, and all these, I'm going to have to like run through the crowd, like push everyone out of the, like make everyone go out. And I was like, and then I calmed myself down, and I was like, this is an opportunity for me. I can make it through this.
Yeah.
Like if I can make it through, then I'll have something. I had to give myself kind of like a little reward. I'll feel good that I mentally kind of overcame this. That was enough for me. I was like, and then I also thought like nothing is gonna, like what's gonna happen? I could hyperventilate, pass out, and that's where your mind can spiral. But none of that has to happen, and the odds that happen are so low. But that can happen to somebody. You could actually cause yourself to pass out. You could create a scene.
Totally.
You could give your kids anxiety because they see that. They're young enough to where if I had done that, and if I let my mind go there, and I had literally created that from nothing, I could then be passing this on to my kids.
Interesting. Yeah. Totally.
I for sure would. They would, they would have this memory of their father who they look up to and like need, strength and not strength and like but safety.
Yeah.
And so your mind can do amazing things to you. And it did to me, but I was luckily enough, I was able to like get it under control there.
Yeah.
But for people,
also like your mind did an amazing thing there to you, which was like to give you the tools actually to calm it down. And
and then I was proud afterwards. I still am, I'll tell the story, and it's just like, okay, that's weird that I had to go through that, but now I've been through similar experiences, like fucking when we go to like a haunted house type of thing, like, there's all kinds of crazy shit that just like make you, if you have that feeling, but I'm interested in like, when does that come on? Because for me, that kind of stuff didn't come on until later. Like I didn't have anxiety that I know of when I was younger. It's something that's sort of like developed.
I think that's probably true for a lot of people where like you really do think you're invincible as a kid and like as a young adult, because you don't have examples of like bad things happening if you're lucky. Yeah. And then the older you get, the more you go, oh, life doesn't always work out and bad things happen and I should be more careful. But like, I don't know. I feel like I've probably always had anxiety, but certainly like my car accident was something where I was like, yeah, okay. I am now an adult, it was one moment. And I feel like a lot of people have a moment that there's like, it creates a schism in their life where there's a before and there's an after. And a lot of a lot of people with like sort of near death experiences or similar things like that will talk about, how anxiety or things develop after that. Your mind wants to create ways to prevent that from happening in the future, for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
It's like self-preservation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think, dealing with something that can be traumatic, coming out like after, like, what do you think it is that could help people that are like, that face something similar,
Hmm.
that's deep enough that they're going to have to live with for the rest of their lives? Like, why, I guess, why do you think like you were able to, grapple with it in a way and find all these tools and, get, find ways through it? And, what can people do in similar situations?
Good question. I mean, I definitely used some bad tools as well,
Yeah.
I talk about that in the show a little bit as well. But I think ultimately, like, we're all just trying to get through. Life is suffering sometimes for everybody, whether you've been through some bad shit or not. It's
Hmm.
just hard, and we're all trying to get through it in the best way possible. And I think when traumatic things happen, you feel really isolated because people don't talk about their traumatic moments as freely. Um,
Right.
Even the question like, how are you doing can be so triggering if you're like, I'm doing terribly, but I don't know how to answer that. So, like,
Yeah.
there's something really beautiful about finding, I mean, for me, it was graffiti because I went, oh, these people are being really real and raw and honest, and I feel less
Hmm.
alone, like looking at this bathroom graffiti. But also, it was art, it was comedy, it was music, it was hearing other people's stories where I went, oh, I'm not so isolated, I'm not so alone. Maybe someone hasn't been through exactly what I've been through, but they've been through some shit.
Yeah.
And that just like gave me a way to go, they're still going. I can do it too. And in fact, I can eventually get up the courage to share my story, and maybe it will help some people. And I feel so lucky that it has. And I only know that because people after shows have told me their stories.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do like a Q&A or like a line after my shows and talk to people, I wouldn't know. So it's really about like the biggest fear I think for people is being vulnerable and honest. And the risk is that people won't see you, that people won't want to hear you, won't
Hmm.
want to hear your story. But most of the time, people do, because they have their own stories that they're sort of like hiding behind their masks. So yeah, it's been really cool. And I'm so grateful that like I love my fans. That sounds so weird, but I haven't really ever had like fans before this show, and it really went viral in this way where I do these shows, and the people that connect with it are from all ages,
Hmm.
all different kinds of backgrounds, and they all of them for the most part, like some of them are comedy fans, some of them are music fans, some of them are art history buffs, but every single person has seen a piece of graffiti and been like, oh yeah, let me tell you about it. I thought about this piece of graffiti, I took this picture, let me show you. And it made me feel a little less alone or seen, or made me laugh, or just anything that makes us feel human and connected. And
Hmm.
I think, yeah, a roundabout way of answering your question, but like I think when people have gone through some kind of trauma and are wondering how to keep going, it is like connecting with other humans in
Hmm.
any way that you know how, whether that's through bathroom graffiti or therapy or talking or art. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. That's awesome that you've found that, because it's like, and that you've chosen that, whatever choices there are for us
Yeah.
really in there. But like, that's pretty amazing, because it's like things can happen to people and they don't,
Hmm.
it's sometimes uncontrollable,
Totally.
sometimes things are self-inflicted for
Yeah.
people
Hmm.
screwing things up, and
Yeah.
it's like, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like lightning,
Totally.
and how I'm a lot of people, they go down the path of writing kill yourself.
Yeah.
And they're feeling that. And
Totally.
so, it is like when you go out like this and you're doing shows and creating and just trying. I mean, you don't proclaim to have all the answers, but that's what art is. And
Yeah.
and you're just, and I think that's where, like you just said, connecting, that makes a lot of sense to me. But what is the opposite of fear?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it courage?
I don't think so. Because I think I say in the show, to be brave, you have to be scared in the first place.
Yeah.
So like the opposite of fear is not courage, because you have to feel the fear to be courageous. Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
just like sort of going about life anyway. I weirdly, my brain wanted to be like the opposite of fear is letting fear control you, which doesn't make sense because that's not an opposite. But like,
Allowing it,
yeah,
like allowing its
yeah, because like
existence.
I guess technically the opposite of fear would be like being relaxed, you know. But what's actually so cool about fear is like it gives you, as you said, either it gives you an opportunity. Either you can let it control you,
Yeah.
or you can decide to overcome it, to be courageous and be
But do
brave.
you overcome it you overcome it, do you go after it aggressively, or do you let it run through? Like how do you fight it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes these days, sometimes I'm just trying to like get my vagus nerve to like wake up, and I'm taking deep breaths and
Mm-hmm.
like trying to calm down. But in general, I used to go after it aggressively, I think.
Yeah. Like take it head on.
Like I used to have debilitating stage fright that started developing. You know what? This is when my anxiety started. It was when I was like 13, 14.
Okay.
And I think it's because like literally my brain grew to like, I don't know, like as we do as teenagers, like have empathy for other people and also like put myself in other people's shoes and just recognize other people as separate from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to like a music magnet high school in Los Angeles, and I loved like musical theater and choirs and performing. And I had to do all of these auditions. And for the first time, I developed anxiety, and I couldn't get through an audition without like physically shaking so much that I had like a weird vibrato when I would sing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like didn't get into a lot of the like top musical theater choir programs until like sophomore year when I was starting to learn how to calm myself down. But even then, it was like so demoralizing and discouraging that I couldn't. And it was simply auditions. When it came to like performances, once I was in the choirs and musicals, I was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But auditions of like people judging me
Yeah.
and judging my worth, I like could not handle. And it was to the point where in college I just stopped performing, and I was still writing songs, but like privately in like the piano rooms I would go write, and I wasn't really sharing them with anyone except like a boyfriend or one or two close friends. And I studied art history because I was like, that's as close as I can get to art. I'll study it rather than making it. And it wasn't until I lived here in Chicago in 2012, and I shared some songs that were kind of funny with my like previous boyfriend, who's a great comedian as well. I think he's performed here, Sean Patton. But he knew about my sort of mantra of like, do what scares you, even if it's everything. And he heard those songs, and he knew about my stage fright, and he went, well, sorry, I dare you to go do an open mic. And you said you do the things that scare you, so you got to sing these songs at an open mic. And so he was like, he gave me a deadline. He was like, you have until the end of June, something. So
Wait, when was this?
June 2012.
Oh, so yeah, so it's basically a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I at the time had like a baritone ukulele, and I wasn't even playing guitar yet. And I went to Gallery Cabaret, and I did an open mic, and I was shaking like a leaf. I was shaking so much, still weird vibrato, and I don't think I did very well. And I finished my like two songs, and I went, well, I guess I got to go after this fear aggressively, because that's not going to do it. It's like exposure therapy in a way. And so I did an open mic every single night that week. And by the end of the week, it was like I was shaking a little bit less.
Yeah.
And I kept doing like as many open mics as I could in Chicago. Then I moved to the UK and did my master's program at Oxford. But I spent most of the time like finding graffiti and photographing it and doing open mics and stuff.
Yeah, that's so
And
cool.
yeah, and I still sometimes get a little bit of stage fright. I had some last night actually. And but now I know, okay, I just got to walk out on stage and like hopefully it'll disappear.
Uh-huh.
I'll just take a deep breath. I've done this a million times.
So it sounds like from that story, it's like it's almost like it's not necessarily attacking the fear or giving it focus. It's actually the opposite. You're like focusing on the opposite thing.
Yeah.
Right? So like you're focusing on going to the open mic. And yeah, that terrifies you. You have a fear of that.
Yeah.
But you're focusing on the thing. You're not giving the fear life, because that feels right to me with fear. Like if it happens to me, or the more it seems natural that if fear comes, you then focus on it. And it's like it wants you to like it wants you to get deeper and listen to it, and you can't do this. You're all the negative things, right?
Totally.
But it sounds like you were just like, going to the open mic and doing the thing and focusing on that. It's not that fear goes away. It's that it seems like it's just you're doing the thing. You're bringing your awareness to something else.
Yeah, I think that's very true, because like the more you focus on fear, which does have a basis initially, but then it starts to tell you stories that aren't true. Like my fear will often go, what if you don't remember the lyrics? What if you forget how to play guitar? What if you don't know how to like talk into a microphone?
Yeah.
And if I like go down and I believe those stories, then I can what if my way to a panic attack. But instead, if I go, I did this last night. I know how to talk into a microphone. I'll remember my lyrics. I've sung this a million times. Also, what if I don't? Great. Then I forget my lyrics in front of an audience and I go, whoops, I forgot. And I just get back into the song, or specifically with my show, it's like the graffiti is projected behind me. If I forget my lyrics, I can turn around and read them, which is very nice. But very silly.
I noticed last night, I was thinking about that. I was like, man, she doesn't look back. She doesn't look back at all.
Yeah.
Like, it.
Yeah. What's crazy too is like, I used to have a foot pedal that controlled the slides. And I got it from a friend.
Your grandfather?
No, I wish. I wish. No, I got it from a friend who is a like orchestral instrumentalist, and she used it to turn sheet music when she was like playing viola.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, I'm going to use it to tell dick jokes. And I used to have this foot pedal that I had to like time with the playing and the song to change the slides behind me. And then it just like got overly complicated, and sometimes it would work during tech and then the audience would fill up the room with all their cell phones and other frequencies, and I would step on the foot pedal and it would breeze through all of my jokes. Like it would just go really quickly.
Okay, yeah. So you were having technical issues with it.
I was having technical issues, and then I started just bringing a tech with me, which last night I used a new tech for the first time, and they were great. So that was very nice that I didn't have to look behind me. And
yeah, it's nice
anything.
that you bring a tech with you, especially given like all the cues that are necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope our board operator did okay, but yeah, it is. I was thinking that when I was like, man, I hope we get all this right.
Totally.
But you had someone up there in the booth as well. So.
Yeah. It's I have like 3 people that are really, really trained on the show, and then I've just started experimenting with like finding someone in the city I'm going to and training them ahead of time. But it's a lot of work. A lot of like, I never use a real tech either. I never use someone that's like a trained tech, because that's actually not what I'm looking for. Like they really just have to press the space bar. I'm looking for someone with good comedic timing who like understands flow, because the thing is the slides, even though they're in the same order every night, they will change based on the audience in terms of timing, because I never want to step on laughs. So if an audience is laughing longer, I'll keep strumming and hold for a while.
So they need to be in rhythm with understanding what's important for the flow of the show.
So it's usually I've worked with a musician or a comedian that like like two of my texts were just like friends who were fans of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, both of them were fans of the show first, became friends. And then I was like, do you think you could run tech?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's funny. I've never worked with someone that like actually understands tech at all. I've always worked with people that are like, I can press a button.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
Yeah.
I like the show. Cool. Yeah, it's an interesting show
That's
too,
cool.
where I keep wanting to write a show in which I can just show up and talk into a microphone, and for some reason I keep writing stuff that's like, and now I got to get a toilet,
Yeah.
now I got to have a whole set.
I mean, you made that work, and it's not prohibitive.
Yeah.
Like, I get it if it's like cost prohibitive, impossible to do. But then the question then is just, is this able to bring the return? Like,
Yeah.
because you could really literally do anything if you've got a big enough, if it's got the reward,
Totally.
but that'd be more of a risk,
Yeah.
up front. So are you, so it sounds like you're thinking about developing this this show into something a little different. How far away do you think you are from that process?
Well, I want to film this one, hopefully this summer or fall. Trying to do it this year. And then I've like started a little bit of it's not quite at the writing process yet, but it's archiving and like sorting all of the graffiti that people have sent. It's all in one big folder right now. And I've started to like put them into sections, which is how I wrote this first show, where I was like, okay, these are from women's stalls. These are from men's stalls. These are misattributed quotes. These are sad poetic
What do you mean by
things.
misattributed quotes?
Like there's a couple in the show. There's one that's smoke meth, suck cock, George Washington. And then there's one that's big tits can't make up for a small ass, but a big ass can make up for small tits, Abraham Lincoln. And so there's a ton of those. So I have like a folder full of misattributed quotes that I feel like should become a song of its own.
Right.
The final song of the show, the one that really, really went viral, is people responding to each other, which is my favorite kind of graffiti. The song is called Conversations with Strangers, which I feel like will be the crux of the second show, because I want to talk to the audience more. I want to get more stories out of them. I want to share more stories of my own, and I want all of the graffiti, for the most part, is going to be sent by the audience. Things that people have sent me since the show went viral. So I think the real crux of, maybe I'll even title it Conversations with Strangers, but that will be the second show for the most part. But yeah, I need to start working on the music first. That will be, I will write a bunch of songs, and some won't, for this first show, I think there's 3 songs that were in the show at some point and are no longer. So I will write a ton of songs and see what works in what order. And then I'll start weaving the story together and having to perform it to smaller audiences and experimenting with what that looks like. It's so crazy to me when people write shows and then present it in full to an audience. I'm like, the audience is your scene partner. So yeah, I mean, that's a whole process. I also have an idea for like a small ensemble musical in which each character has written a piece of graffiti, and it's like set in a bar, and it's about their intersecting stories and the stories behind like one piece of graffiti per character. But that will take years to write. Musicals take forever. But yeah, I mean, I'm at that stage of like wanting to put this one to bed and freeing myself up to really start to dive into the next couple of things. And I also, like, aside from that, I have an album that I'm recording right now. I have like drums and bass recorded, and it's called Songs I Wrote for Other People's Weddings.
Okay.
And it's literally like songs I wrote for my friends' weddings and my own sad breakup songs and finding love again and all that. And then I have a musical comedy album with my fiance. We have a duo called 2/3 of a Threesome. And there's like 11 songs on that album that a bunch of those have gone viral. We wrote a couple songs in which all the lyrics, I love a found art song. All the lyrics are things our friend Emily said while sleep talking. and those have gone really, really viral. And so we're
That's
gonna release a little
hilarious. How do you capture those? You just like stand there and like she's gonna do it. And
her partner has sent us a whole list.
Okay.
And then also she just falls asleep sometimes when we're all hanging out, and she'll start like, it's really hard to tell when she's fallen asleep because she'll continue to participate in the conversation, but it gets weirder and weirder and weirder as she starts to dream.
She's like half conscious.
Yeah, it's so crazy. But yeah, we're gonna release a little like sleepy EP of like the Emily sleep talking songs, and then a whole album. So there's like a bunch of other projects that I'm working on, as well as the next graffiti project.
I love that. That one sounds great as well. I think all of these ways which can make an audience feel human, and connect, and laugh, because ultimately we just want to kind of laugh at ourselves, our predicament in this weird world. And that's awesome. Well, what other things do you have going on? I know you have a ton of interests. I mean, I've heard, I think you mentioned like sound therapy, mushrooms with the sound therapy. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So these ceremonies that we run are based off of ayahuasca ceremony structure, which I've done many times as well. But basically, for this, we make a mushroom tea that does some of the breakdown of like when people do mushrooms and they feel really nauseous, it does part of that breakdown outside of your body while we make the tea. And so when you drink the tea, you ideally just like go into a psychedelic space.
So you don't have like a vomiting or
totally. It's nicer on your body. And we set intentions, and we go through sort of like agreements and structure of the evening, and then basically the only real rule is no casual conversation. And so we play music for like 4 to 6 hours, and there's no talking, and everyone's just sort of like in their blankets and journaling and crying and laughing and yawning and just having their sort of like individual therapeutic healing journey collectively as a group. And it's really powerful. I mean, I used to be so afraid of drugs and psychedelics, and then it's also been a great tool since I've started experimenting with them of dealing with my anxiety. It just puts me into this space where I go, okay, that's not so scary. In fact, I'm grateful for the opportunity. It brings me a lot of gratitude and peace. And so it's been cool. It's also such a different way to like play music. We play like kochi chimes and hand pans and singing bowls and a ton of music that's in foreign languages. We really only transition to like English songs sort of at the end because you don't want to take people out of their journey by making them listen to lyrics. And so, it's a super different way to play music because unlike getting up on stage where it's sort of like, look at me, I'm going to make you laugh, I'm going to move you. You're instead just like underscoring someone else's experience, and you're actually trying to like detract attention from yourself. You really don't want people focusing on you or what you're playing. You want them to like get over something that they're working on or meet their intention that they set at the beginning. And so you're just playing the background music to their trip.
How does the focus shift? So if you have a bunch of people in the room and one person starts playing something, how does everybody else sort of know to respond to that person or help them out in music? Or
they don't need to. So basically, not everyone's playing music. So it's just like the group of facilitators that are passing the songs around and sometimes playing together, sometimes playing separately. And then at some point we do open it up and say if anyone wants to share a song, which has been so cool. But for the most part, everyone is just, they don't have to do anything other than have their experience. They have a blanket, they have an eye mask, they have a journal, and they just get to not be bombarded with everything that we see on our screens or the chaos of the world, and they just get to be in their little cocoon for
how long do they usually last?
About 4 to 6 hours, and we do like a second sip moment as well throughout the evening. So if you want to go deeper or continue your journey, then you can have some more of the mushroom tea.
And how many facilitators are there? They're not partaking or
we usually do a very small amount so that you're on the sort of like same wavelength, but it's so minor. It's like less than, half a gram, basically. And everyone else sort of like we ask them, do you want a light journey, a heavy journey, a medium journey? How are you feeling? And check in with them. And there's all sorts of like liability paperwork as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, we basically like have a lot of check-ins with people and then serve them what they've asked for. And then we do a tiny, tiny little sip. And there's usually, we usually do a smaller group. So like 8 to 10 people, sitters with like 3 facilitators. But I've attended ceremonies in which there's, many more people and a whole team of people.
Yeah.
Facilitating. So yeah, it's a cool world. It's not something I ever thought I'd get into. I sort of was raised like very intellectual,
Were you?
intellectual, logical, Jewish, and very like scientific, and also this whole like universe of, I don't know, sound healing and vibrations. And I used to very much poo-poo it. And now I'm
Sure.
like, wow, there's like a lot here that has really been beneficial to me and, could really help people.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder all the time about, like we were talking about earlier, just the subject of like fear and survival. That seems very logical from a scientific perspective. But then I also, I've never tried psychedelics at all,
Oh, wow.
mainly because I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I'm just like the most I've done is smoke weed, and I don't anymore. I haven't
Yeah.
since like, for like, God, it's been like 20 years,
Yeah.
and, but nothing like heavily psychedelic, but it's always interested me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like one of those people that loves to just think about the whys of why are we here? Why is this like this?
Yeah.
Why is anything,
Yeah.
it's very fun for me to get in these
Totally.
conversations, just from a philosophical perspective. But
Yeah.
I think often of like the spirituality of things. Like it makes sense to me maybe that there is no spiritual element to things, but then it also makes a lot of logical sense that there could be, even in
Totally.
the subject of like fear and, courage and like all those things could be a spiritual kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in a different way, on a different kind of plane. But I guess with that, trying psychedelics, like, has that influenced your feeling on spirituality, and especially in light of some of the things that you've been through?
Yeah, I think quite a bit. I was raised like very much a Jewish atheist, which I talk a little bit about in the show, but it's because my maternal grandparents escaped the Holocaust and came to America and decided, with the atrocities that their people had seen, that like God didn't exist, but that they wanted to keep the Jewish part of their culture. So they raised my mom and her sisters with, they didn't send them to Hebrew school, but they raised them celebrating the holidays and making the food and singing some of the prayers and everything. And then I was raised like similarly. And in some ways I like wish that around other Jewish people, I feel less Jewish and like less able to connect and be part of that identity. But also it's like very much core, and also like the atheist part was really drilled into me when I was younger. And since then, I feel like I've become more agnostic and more like, I don't know if I'd call myself spiritual, but certainly like doing psychedelics and thinking about these different planes of thinking and spirituality in general. Like I see more connection between things that like a more logical, intellectual version of me would be like, yeah, those are just coincidences. And now I look for them more, and I find them more fascinating. And I look at, I remember sort of scoffing at people being like, everything is vibration. And I go, actually, no, it is though. Light is literally vibration. Like we're made of atoms that are vibrating with each other.
Right.
And
sounds so woo-woo when you say it,
so woo-woo. And I used to just totally poo-poo it. And now I go, no, like music is literally a vibration. We're all made up of these things, and sometimes their frequencies are talking to each other. It's also been so crazy to have these sort of psychedelic trips and have moments of like feeling really connected to my ancestry or to the people around me or to different past versions of myself, and then come back to sobriety
Ooh, that's
and
interesting.
feel
Past
better.
versions of yourself?
Yeah, I've had a couple ceremonies where I'm able to like look back on a younger version of myself and go, "Oh man, you were really struggling," and I can give you the
Yeah.
kind of love and forgiveness that I would give to any friend going through that, but wasn't able to give to myself. I had one trip where I like literally there were different versions of me at different ages that I was like seeing with my eyes closed, sort of like I was dreaming, and I was able to sort of talk to myself in different ways.
Oh, how
And
crazy is that?
it's so wild to come out of these trips and go, okay, none of that really in reality happened, but I feel better. I feel more healed. I
Right.
feel more
You almost,
calm.
it's like
Yeah.
not, you didn't really go back in time,
Yeah.
but you went to a part of your mind where
Hmm.
something wasn't resolved or
Yeah.
like, and you showed compassion to that
Hmm.
earlier part
Yeah.
of thing that happened to you, which would like release it.
Totally.
Just thinking logically about
Yeah.
it, it's like, that's really cool.
Yeah. And it's like, in general, I think psychedelics open, it like is literally happening in your brain. It does a thing to your brain and it creates new neural pathways in your brain between areas that didn't exist anymore. So you're able to make connections between things that you weren't able to in a sober mindset. And as you said, your brain is a tool. And so you're just using your tool in a different way. And hopefully you're able to take some of those lessons or moments of clarity back into your, integrate them into your regular life. Sometimes that fades, but yeah, for the most part, I'm really grateful for starting to try and think about things differently. It's really been helpful. So yeah,
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
yeah,
I'm really excited to show you that elevator.
yes,
We should go check it out.
absolutely.
And the graffiti on it. But I'm also really looking forward to, seeing where your show develops, the
Yeah,
writing on the stall and the different versions it sounds like you may put out.
yeah.
So, and shooting it. So, good luck with that. Keep us
Thank you.
posted here at the
Absolutely.
Den. And where can people find your stuff and what you're doing?
I'm everywhere at oh. Hello. Hello, little siren outside.
It's a little sound effect we put on
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to
yeah.
highlight.
Woo, come by me. No, my handle everywhere is the Caitlin Cook. And then I'm also on like Spotify or Bandcamp if you want to be more supportive to musicians. But yeah, I'm always putting new stuff out on like TikTok and Instagram, and I'm about to start really releasing a bunch of new music and new live clips and comedy and stuff. So yeah,
Great.
keep an eye out.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me.